Hey, what's up guys? It's Rick with the Digital Divide, and today we're doing another cooking video. Specifically, I'm going to be cooking a balsamic vinaigrette chicken dish with some carrots and green beans. It's a really simple dish that I found on tasty.com. So to start off, you're going to need some green beans. I got 2 bags. This is roughly 1.5 pounds of green beans. Might be too much. We'll see how much I end up using. You're also going to need, well, the recipe calls for 1 pound of carrots. I got 2. I'll probably use 1.5 pounds. You'll also obviously need some balsamic vinegar. You'll need approximately ½ cup of that. And then the recipe does call for 1 onion. And then you'll also need some garlic and some garlic powder and some basil leaves. And then you'll need some good old salt and pepper. You'll also need a little bit of olive oil later. And then of course you need your chicken. So the recipe calls for chicken thighs. I specifically 8 chicken thighs, but instead I'm using 5 very large chicken breasts. I prefer white meat, but I've cooked it both ways and it works fine. They both taste delicious either way. So first we're going to start by prepping all of our ingredients. Despite the fact that these are baby carrots, I still think they're a bit too big for this dish as it stands, so I do like to cut them in half. So I'm going to start by opening these up, and I'm going to cut them in half to make them more manageable. And then you're just going to repeat that for as much as you want to use. Again, I think I'm going to use about 1.5 bags, so about 1.5 pounds. I like to make a little bit more. It's nice to have leftovers. So next we're going to work on our onion, and again you're just going to dice this up into little bits. I went with a plain yellow onion. You can also do red. Again, I've made it both ways. It works either way. So we're not going to do anything with the green beans. Just when you get a chance, go ahead and just rinse those off and set them aside in a bowl. We don't need to chop those up or do anything to them. So next we're going to get started on the chicken. Now again, I opted to use 5 very large chicken breasts. So what I'm going to do is just cut those in half to make the portions more manageable. And when you do that, it ends up being roughly the size of a thigh, which is what the recipe calls for anyways. So if you have a piece that has an excessive amount of fat, I do like to cut the fat out. I don't want to cut all the fat out. You do want to leave some because it does help with the flavor while it's cooking, but if there's any like egregiously large chunks, I do cut those out. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half and repeat the process for all of the remaining pieces of chicken that I've got. So at this point, we've got our main ingredients prepped and ready to go. So at this point, just go ahead and set these aside and grab your crock pot. Now, I like to spray a little bit of non-cook butter spray at the bottom. This is completely optional. You can just use olive oil instead. So guys, at this point, my camera stopped working. It just turned off, and I didn't know that it turned off. So I lost a solid 10 minutes of footage, which really sucks. Rest in peace to that footage. But thankfully, the site that I got the recipe from, Tasty, has some stock footage. So I'm going to show you that for right now, and then I do have the footage towards the end. You're just going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, and then add your minced garlic, then your baby carrots, and whatever chicken you decide to go with on top, followed by some salt and pepper, some garlic powder, some dried basil, and then a ½ cup of balsamic vinegar topped with your onion. Once all of your ingredients are in there, you're going to want to crank that puppy up to high. And this is the footage that I do have. Once I realized the camera was off, I started recording again. So you're going to want to cover this and put it on high. And just leave the green beans out of the equation for now. And then cook this for 4 hours on high. The final step of the process is that 30 minutes before the timer expires, that's when you want to add in the green beans. So again, 30 minutes before the 4-hour timer expires, go ahead and dump in as many green beans as you prefer. on the top there. And I like to add a little bit of seasoning with the green beans specifically. So I'm gonna dump in most of this. I'm not gonna use all of it because it is a lot. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of salt on top, just to give it a bit of flavor. And then lastly, because it hasn't been in there for as long as the rest, in order to reduce any dryness and add a little bit of moisture, I'm gonna drizzle a bit of olive oil on top and let that soak in for the remaining 30 minutes. So let the clock run out for 30 minutes, and once it's done, you should have a perfectly cooked balsamic chicken dish. And it turned out incredible. That's gonna do it for me today, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you end up making this recipe, and thank you for watching as always.